dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. In today's edition, we are going to shed light about the economy in the African continent, but at the beginning, we'll be shedding light about the vaccine in Africa for COVID-19 at the initiative of Britain, which boosts the having of an effective vaccination program. The UN Security Council on Wednesday will debate the problem of the global access to COVID-19 vaccines, raising issues likely to underscore sharp differences between the Council members. The discussion is of special concern to Africa, where South Africa warned recently of a kind of vaccine appetite which rich northern countries receiving ample supplies and poorer southern countries going without. More details in the following story.
How vaccines can be distributed fairly without, as it has been the case, going first to the richest countries in the north, while those in the south suffer, will be the focus of a UN Security Council debate on Wednesday. The debate will also discuss vaccine priorities for medical staff and troops and who should provide the jabs, the United Nations, the troops' countries of origin, or those where they are deployed. The Security Council's only direct involvement in the pandemic came in July 2020, when, after long and difficult negotiations to resolve sharp US-Chinese tensions, it passed a resolution encouraging ceasefires in the countries in conflict in order to limit the spread of COVID-19. Diplomats said Britain recently shared with a few other countries a draft resolution on vaccine management. Last week, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa said what should not be seen is a kind of vaccine apartheid, with rich northern countries receiving ample supplies and poorer southern countries going without. Diplomats said negotiations over a Security Council resolution were likely to be complicated, with some countries uncomfortable at the transparency involved in committing themselves to leave no country wanting for vaccine. Several countries, including China, Russia, and some Gulf nations, have already launched vaccine diplomacy initiatives, either showcasing their own production capacity or providing easier access to vaccine doses. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has repeatedly sounded a warning that as the virus and its multiple variants spread around the world, global security can be assured only if everyone enjoys the same level of protection.
South Africa said it will reopen 20 land border crossing points on Monday, removing the last month's coronavirus-driven restrictions. More details.
South Africa will reopen 20 land border crossings to allow normal travel, lifting restrictions implemented last month to control rising coronavirus infections. The country's Home Affairs Ministry said land border points, including those with Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Botswana, would reopen after being closed on January 11. The Home Affairs Minister said the active and orderly management of people through borders is an important part of the country's overall risk-adjusted approach to control the spread of COVID-19. He will visit the Lebombo border post, one of the 4 busiest land ports on the border of Mozambique, on Monday to monitor the processing of travelers. South Africa has recorded the highest number of coronavirus infections and deaths on the African continent, with more than 1.4 million cases and over 47,000 deaths. It has been hit hard by a second wave of infections linked to a new variant called 501Y.V2, which was identified in South Africa late last year.
Guinean health authorities reported 8 cases of Ebola in the first possible resurgence of the disease there since the worst outbreak in 2013-2016. More details about the Ebola virus in the following story by Samah al-Sharif.
8 people have tested positive for the Ebola virus in southeastern Guinea, and 3 of them have died. They fell ill with the symptoms after attending a burial in Gueke sub-prefecture. The State Health Security Agency ANSS said on Sunday that all 8 tested positive for the virus and the 5 still alive have been isolated in treatment centers. The last major outbreak of Ebola in West Africa is believed to have started in Guinea. It killed at least 11,300 people, with the vast majority of cases in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. A second round of tests is being carried out to confirm the diagnosis, and health workers are working to trace and isolate the contacts of the cases.
And now we will be talking about the economic development in the African continent, of course, in the repercussion of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how Africa will be sustaining its economic recovery in light of the outbreak. To shed more light, we are very much delighted to have with us over the phone. Hello? 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 We are joined by Mr. Yusuf Mazhar, former Assistant Minister of Industry. Mr. Yusuf. Hello, sir. I do believe that we are still having a technical problem communicating with Mr. Yusuf Mazhar. A short break, and after that we'll be back, so stay tuned. Welcome back. I do believe now that we are joined by Mr. Yusuf Mazhar, former Assistant Minister of Industry. Mr. Yusuf, hello, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you, sir? Sir, how would you describe the current state of the intra-African trade in comparison to other continents?
Well, look, we must realize sometimes we forget in Egypt, but we are in this continent.
Yes.
We are in Africa, and we are in one of the northern parts of Africa, which had its development slightly earlier and its independence slightly earlier than the rest of Africa.
Yes.
So actually, we are in the midst of Africa, figuratively. Why? Because we have got the east coast of Africa and we've got the west coast of Africa. The east coast of Africa takes the Red Sea and then the Indian Ocean and has very long boundaries with Egypt. And West Africa, of course, we've always been in West Africa.
Yeah.
So what we are seeing now is that we have got tremendous opportunities in Africa, and as you know, and as our President Sisi has been looking at, transportation, number one. So transportation, we have now highways which are going down to the boundaries of Sudan, and there are plans eventually to get to South Africa.
Yes.
And there are also the sea travel, which comes out of Suez and goes all along the eastern coast of Africa. Mm-hmm. So apart from, of course, the air traffic, and we've got our national airline. So number one, in order to have trade and, let's say, business in Africa, you must have transportation. And this is now gradually being completed. Now, let us see what we have got to offer Africa and what has Africa to offer us. But Africa, nobody should talk about it as one place. Yes. It's a huge continent. It is compared to Europe, and it has countries which are very, very different. Now, if you will allow me, I just want to say from the part of what the abilities of these countries are. We have, for example, we had a visit from Africa, very lately in the last African, let's say in the last week.
Yes.
And there we had Kinshasa, which is the Congo,
Yes.
and the president was here, and he's got a very prominent position now in Africa. And let me say, in the Congo area, there are one or two very important things. This is an area which is full of minerals.
Yes.
It's full of cobalt. It's full of copper. It's full of other minerals which are used for other energy developing. So this is one place which can satisfy Egypt and also the trade with Egypt. So we should be, as we have seen last week here, we should be in looking at the let's say the middle of Africa as a very big nucleus for trade of minerals, rare minerals, also diamonds. All this is within our reach. Now, if you go to the to West Africa, there is a great opportunity for trade there, and we see now from the new railways that have been mentioned lately, and our president also has talked about the, let's say, the capital, the new capital to Sokhna. The extension of this is railway lines all the way down East Africa. So you can go, you can have Kenya, you can have Uganda, you can have got Tanzania, and we have got tremendous, let's say, opportunities there. Now, one very interesting thing that nobody talks a lot about is that we have been working on a dam in Tanzania. So when you say here of two Egyptian contractors who have taken a smallish dam, not a tremendously large dam, but with our local electrical and mechanical and building capabilities.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
All these are very much, this is not the only trade, this is now contracting. And we are also making friends and working together with Chinese counterparts, which are very active and have been very active in Africa. So it's a very good partner for us. So these are the main comments, but please, if you would like to clarify any of those, please tell me.
Indeed. Mr. Youssef, how does the global economic downturn driven by the COVID-19 pandemic urge closer trade ties among the different African nations?
Yes, well, look, this is a very difficult question to answer because even even the producing countries for these vaccines and also the distribution companies, they themselves are not very, very clear about everything. But in general, let me say that there are efforts. Don't think that Africa is lying asleep. No. Many of the presidents of Africa, with cooperation with our President Sisi, have been taking his advice because we are a bit ahead on these subjects. They have already started bringing amounts of vaccines into the countries. But of course, it is still not very sufficient. And don't forget that to estimate what an African country needs, because it's not like Europe where everything is very well known. There are tribes, there are frontiers, there are large areas of unknown territory, or let's say, and the habitation is also very distributed. So Africa is not asleep. And we have got an opportunity there, but let us say that the opportunity can be with doctors, with nurses, male nurses or female nurses, with provisions. And we have seen sometimes that our Air Force, the military Air Force, has taken loads of these supporting items to African countries. So we have got an enormous potential, but let us say with manpower, skilled manpower. We've got very good doctors, we've got excesses of doctors, and this might be another very interesting thing. And I think we should keep our eye on Africa.
Yes.
They know what they're doing, and we've got tremendously friendly relations.
Yes.
And they listen very much to our president, who was head of the African Union the last year, let's say. So they listen to us as, let's say, the big sister or the big brother to African countries.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Youssef, how would you describe actually the prospects for the success of the African free trade area?
Look, of course, don't forget that we must always repeat Africa is a continent. It's very, very big, and it's divided, let's say,
Yes.
into 4 main divisions. And the African Union, if we may call that, because we have got different organizations. Each, let's say, 1/4 of all this has got its own system. It's got its own trade agreements. Trade agreements, just for the normal listener, means
Yes.
that you can export from one country to another without trade restrictions, without currency restrictions.
Yes.
So, knowing that these groups are there, and we are part of one main group, of course, but also very friendly with the others, this has made trade, if we can trade with one country in one trade grouping, we are in with the rest of them.
Yes,
So I
indeed.
think we have also got the foreign affairs. We've
Yes.
got a very good program for Africa.
Yeah.
It is quite well financed, and many European countries find that partnership with Egypt and its, let's say, its experience might be a plus point.
Yes. Finally, sir, what are, from your point of view, the reasons why till this moment the intra-Africa trade is dismal at the moment?
Well, look, you see, trade doesn't jump up immediately as if you don't press a button and start trade. Don't forget, you must see what are the African countries involved in. Some of them, the very rich countries which have got minerals, have got materials, have got woods, have got all these things which are controlled by international bourses.
Yes.
I mean, international groupings where the prices and the trade is even done outside Africa. So the price of lead, for example,
Yes.
the price of copper, which goes into the electrical industry,
Yes,
are controlled by organizations or systems that are even outside Africa. And this is very important that we should be also linked to those because these are controlling the flow. So I think it's an enormous prospect, but we must have more people in Africa. We should do a bit like what the Chinese did. They went into road building. We have got one very strong element in Africa, which is the peacekeeping.
Yes, of
Peacekeeping,
course.
which, yes, you know, the peacekeeping, which is backed by our police force. We're
Yes,
always talking
indeed.
about the armed forces, but the police also, they have got an institute here where they are providing now nearly 9% of all the, let's say, the assistance to Africa in all these very difficult areas of, you know, of turbulence, etc.
Yes, indeed, Dr. Youssef Mazhar, former Assistant Minister of Industry. Always a pleasure to have you with us, sir. And with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching.